Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show. Hi, I'm Paul and I'll be your host this evening as we catch up on the action from last weekend in the NPC, have a chat about some law regulations that are going to be coming in because, hey, why not? Let's revisit those. I can't remember if we visited those in the past or not. Talk about what's going on in court because, boy, oh boy, Australian rugby has decided that, it's all too boring talking about stuff that goes on the pitch. So let's talk about some other stuff, and MP and just general injuries as well. All injuries, and this joining this evening is it's Cornflake. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I mean, I thought I had a news piece of information there that I was going to spring on you, but I think you might have stolen it on me. Hey, good to be back. Mondays, woo! You know why Australia's so quiet and upset? Because they don't have domestic rugby to be excited about. Well, that's on you, Australia, you pack of clowns. Everyone else is quite happy. You know, the Northern Hemisphere's got the rugby going on, NPCs, and, you know, it's prime final weeks. And Australia's like, oh, man, this sucks. So off they go to court.
Exactly. So the injury one, you Brett Cameron, was that where you were going with that one?
I'm distraught. I'm really upset. Extremely upset. Best number 10 in the country.
Best 10 in the country is, as you say, is not available anymore and won't be available for up to a year because of an ACL. Yep. So, look, in all seriousness, wishing you a speedy recovery. Look, his return from Japan has been really good. And he was playing for both Manawatu 2 and the Canes has really shown people as to why he was taken up to the All Blacks in the first place. Real shame for him that he's had that injury. Hopefully we'll see him back fully fit. Don't rush back and do it again. It would be my advice because he's still got plenty of years left in him. Let's be on with you. Let's be honest. Good evening to Simon. That's right, folks. You can join us live at 8 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook if you want to join in with the live chat, or you can listen to us as a podcast and just search for the DrivingMaul show or New Zealand Sport Radio on Spotify. And you never know, they might even actually return us, even though we're on there. Sometimes they go, no one listens to you. We're not going to return you with the results. Evil people. Simon says that Australia did win the WXV second division, so well done to them. Look, I'll be honest with you, we don't generally talk about women's rugby on here because we just don't know anything about it, and so we don't feel qualified to go on about it. But congratulations to the Black Ferns, who, off the back of a couple of defeats, managed to beat France. I think it was a bit of a after losing to Ireland and to England, I would say that was a bit of an upset, beating France. So well done to them with a hat trick to somebody. I've forgotten her name already, but I did notice that someone scored a hat trick. So well done her as well.
Good job. You know what? I did actually watch a little bit of I watched a little bit of highlights. That's probably the extent of my women's rugby adventure. But it's I think so it's kind of sad to say it, but other nations, Ireland beating the Black Ferns, although it's like, oh no, but it's kind of good for the game because it gives teams, that belief of, are we catching up? It's men's rugby 20 years ago, with the belief of, Ireland's never going to beat the All Blacks, and that sort of thing. Argentina will never beat the All Blacks. And now we're getting to those days where it's normal, I think for women's rugby, it's good for the global game to see those sort of results. And now everyone's just got to do it to England and beat them up as well. But I think it brought a bit of interest to the game though, because it's like, oh crap, they lost, it's like, oh no, and everyone's just like, well, we want revenge, so we have to watch the next game to make sure that that they can win. It's like, hey, beat France, so it kind of brought, I think it brought a bit of a bit more interest to that whole series, which is good.
So that's great. That's great news. You want competitive games. Let's be honest. Look, I mean, it wasn't like that. The Black Ferns got thrashed by Ireland or anything like that. So you want competitive games, and if you got you got 4 or 5 teams that are competitive at the top, that's fantastic. But as you say, people need to catch up with England now because England at the moment has got the most professional setup, and that's why you've got the most. That's why they're doing better than anyone else. At the end of the day, look, they actually have a full season of fixtures for their club rugby, whereas here our Super Rugby Alpaki is what, 4 rounds maybe. It's just not. You can't develop as players with 4 games a year. I don't think I'm being a greatly insightful sports scientist with that one. Let's be honest.
Hey, the same reason that no one watches international rugby league, right?
Yeah.
No, well, it's better now, but I remember back in the day, it was like, oh, can Great Britain finally defeat the Kiwis or Australia or New Zealand? And no, they can't. And it's just like, we'll just wait to the final and see who wins that one, which is 90% chance going to be Australia. But it's getting better. But yeah, it suffers the same thing, doesn't it? Like club league is so much more bigger and followed and watched than internationals just because of the competitiveness. And it's the same. Every sport's like that. The more competitive you are, the more teams that can compete. Look at football World Cup. I mean, the round ball football. You go into that tournament where how many teams can win that tournament? 10, 12 or so teams are fully capable on their day of winning that tournament. So that's obviously the goal for all sports. And like you say, women's football was traditionally been very much, women's rugby has been traditionally very much England and New Zealand, hasn't it? So it's good to see those other teams picking up and catching up, which is nice to see. And yes, it did get my interest up a little bit. So I was one of those ones that thought, oh, here we go, something a little bit interesting.
I'm not sure what's good a bit of history, hasn't he? 1 in 3 against the Kangaroos back in the old days for Great Britain. I remember seeing
Great Britain is cheating. That's cheating. It's 4 nations.
Great Britain. I think I can't remember if it was Great Britain or if they actually split up to be England and Wales for that Rugby World Cup. Beat the Kangaroos at Wembley in London in the pool game, which they went to then lose in the final or lose in the knockout stages to Australia. So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, the one that counted they lost, but the one that didn't count they won. But never mind.
It sounds like Ireland.
Well, yes, it does, doesn't it? That's not the only injury news, because a number of All Blacks were announced to be released to play in the what do you call it? In the the NPC. So let's just run through some of these names and see if you think there might be an odd one out as this. So we got some
quizzes.
Pasilo Tossi, who was released for Bay of Plenty.
Should be Southland.
The Stephen Perifetta released for Taranaki. Luke Jacobson, Samapini Finau released for Waikato. Ethan Blackadder, who then got himself injured and didn't actually play. And David Havili released for Tasman. George Bell, Fletcher Newell, Sam Darry released for Canterbury. Billy Proctor, Ruben Love, TJ Perenara, Asafoa Amua for Wellington, and Cam Roygaard released for Counties. Does one of those names stick out, do you think?
You're going to pick on Perenara, aren't you? I just know Perenara is the one you're picking on. Yeah.
Look, Proctor, Love, Proctor, Love, Tossi, Jacobson, Finau, Havili, Bell, Newells, Darry. In fact, all of those basically only played against Fiji and haven't played since.
I'd put Armour in that boat.
Perifetta and Roygaard have been injured, haven't played anything. And so, he ended up with but TJ Perenara and probably Amua as well. I mean, Amua's come off the bench in pretty much every game. But those two have suddenly been allowed back. Now, I guess with Amua, the fact he's come off the bench, he's only actually played like 10 minutes each game or 20 minutes each game. So they're kind of like, well, he hasn't actually really played. But TJ Perenara, he's been starting for the All Blacks. Now, that smacks, and maybe this is just confirmation biased, but it smacks of sentimentality. Hey, look, TJ's heading overseas. It's his last chance to play for Wellington. The last chance to play in Wellington. Actually, no, because this weekend I think they're playing at home as well. But his last chance to play for Wellington. So, hey, we'll release him. Again, to me, it's just feeding into that narrative, for me anyway, of too much sentiment rather than actually doing what's right for the All Blacks.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with you anymore. I agree. I knew exactly where you were going as soon as you started that. I remember Perenara getting released at the start of the weekend. But, I mean, like Nick Turnell says that it's a special place for TJ. He is special. But to me, Perenara is a good player. Would you consider him a great All Black? I wouldn't. I'd consider him a good All Black. They had a very good international career. But to me, if you look at nines, Aaron Smith streaks ahead of him. A great All Black, Aaron Smith. One of the best nines.
This isn't about whether he's great or not. This is about the sense that should he be released?
I was building
Sorry.
on that
Oh, wait,
because
sorry.
why are we being so sentimental for him? Because it's not like it's, you know, one of our great All Blacks where it's like, yeah, celebrate him. Yeah, let's just get him out and celebrate his amazing career. Again, he was a good All Black, but I wouldn't be rushing to any stadium to get a little glimpse of TJ Perenara before he head overseas. So, you know, to me, it's like, you know, if you got one last chance to see Dan Carter play rugby, it will give you a bit more incentive. But one last chance to see Perenara, I would pass up. I'd prefer to go see anyone else, the youth, the younger players. You know, to me, he's not a star-studded legend of All Blacks rugby. So I don't know why we're being so precious about him.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the starter legend, but he is someone who definitely is one of the more, I'd say he's one of the more visible and vocal of the All Blacks, because look, he does have a social conscience, and will speak up on issues, and therefore he is seen and heard about more in the media than some of the others. For example,
he's a halfback.
Now, whether you agree with his views or not, he's just more of a visible person. He's one of the more visible All Blacks, whereas people like compared to Aaron Smith essentially just did not turn up in the media unless he was going to airport bathrooms. Sorry, but otherwise, but not right. I suppose brand TJ. But whereas TJ and Artie Surveyor, these are guys that have want to use their voice in public and do. And so, from that point of view, he is whilst he's not one of the greats, he's one of the more visible ones for that. But hey, it seemed a strange one for me that he was released, and was again to me playing down that narrative, that sentimental narrative that I'm not a fan of. Keeping with the All Blacks though, and they've got a new permanent assistant coach. Can you spot that one?
Yes.
Which is. Of course, he's got to be from Canterbury, and so so another Canterbury guy has been brought in. Tamiti Ellison. It was part time already, but now he's gone full time, and so hence the Crusaders looking for another person, another coach in their lineup. Also, their manager has for the Crusaders also gone to work into a part of the women's rugby at New Zealand Rugby as well. So yeah, Crusaders looking for have got a couple of empty spots at the moment. I mean, look, congratulations to him as to with coming into the All Blacks. But yeah, it doesn't help with the whole Crusaders biased storyline, does it?
No, that doesn't. But you'd hope that it's going to be the best man for the job and the best man that's going to fill his position and his role. And I was talking to a chap at work that's very much rugby orientated, and Tamati Ellison is very interesting. I guess life you'd call it, because you're probably before your time, Paul, of being in New Zealand, but he was actually on an All Black ad in the mid to late 90s as a child, and has come almost full circle to becoming an All Blacks coach and having a very storied rugby career throughout his life. So yeah, any of you who are probably in your 30s or older may remember that one of him singing, I think it was, what was that song? Stand By Me, Lean On Me, Stand By Me, for an All Black ad. So yeah, if you didn't know, go search that up. 90s, mid 90s, late 90s. Yeah, and now look at him, All Black coach. There you go. There's your pub trivia question for 1 year. Just before professionalism, yeah, probably was nocturnal about that sort of period. Yep.
The not sure. Yeah. When the All Blacks wanted public donations, it's like, oh yeah, it's going out with that begging bowl, as he says. When you're getting yourself
Stand by me.
International sponsors and ignoring your local fan base. There you go. But hey.
Hey, we're talking about how he's developed from a child with a public piece for the All Blacks and a storied rugby career being an All Black coach. Very cool. I had no idea. Very cool.
Good on him, and we'll see. And look, wish him the best and all that kind of
sure.
stuff. But say, yeah,
Proof in the pudding.
it just followed the kind of the same storyline. I don't think Razor's helping himself a little bit with these storylines at the moment. With these things,
Who would have you picked if you could have picked? I presume he's doing backs attack, right? That's all I could kind of think of. But who would if you didn't pick him? I'm not saying he's the wrong man by any means. But who would have been your pick if you could have picked any coach to fill that role? Say you were Scott Robertson.
If I was Scott Robertson, I would pick him because he's someone I've worked with before, and I know and I trust him, and we work together well, right? So from that point of view, I'd pick him if I was Scott Robertson. If I'm not Scott Robertson, then I'll be honest, I don't know because I've not worked with anybody, but that's there. It's a matter of who's available, right? Brown is who I'd have gone for, but he's with South Africa.
Yeah, but the whole thing of international coaching is that you don't so much pick people that you know or you've worked with. You kind of want to pick the best of what's available, right? And surely he'll have, or there will be a bit of a list of the best available coaches that I'd want to pick. And it kind of that's the thing. It's like all these Crusaders coaches and players and the Harvey's of reliabilities and all we've used as Robertson, I've used him so much, to fill and plug those holes, and now I'm going to use him again. And shouldn't be looking for the best coach. Like surely someone throughout Super Rugby level or NPC level is proven to be a good backs or attacking coach that you can look at and go, man, I like what this guy's done. Let's bring him into this fold sort of thing instead of being like, well, I worked with him for a couple of years and he did a good job with the Crusaders. Look at those titles. Let's bring him on board. Yeah,
but he kind of did that, didn't he? With this guy who used to coach the Blues, and that didn't work, did it? And so I think there's an element at the moment where he is in a little mini crisis mode at the moment, and so when you're in crisis mode, you go back to what do you trust, and that's why we've seen very conservative selections for the tour, right?
And if come Japan, they don't score at least 60 points, whose name's going to be on that chopping block?
Yep. Well, I think it comes down to it's if he loses 3 during the during the November tour. If he loses to England, even if he loses 2, I think he's in trouble.
Look what they did though when Ryan took over the forwards. That focal point of forward performance. This was in Foster's day, right?
Yep.
Was so much on how has he changed the forwards. And it was all focused on how his impact into the team has changed the team. I think the team's going to be. It's like, okay, he's come in as backs coach. What are we going to see different from the start to moving forward on this Northern Tour? Is that what his influence is?
Nothing, because he's already in there, right? So this is just we're not going to see anything different.
Full then, but we're seeing full time now. We're not just seeing him plug the hole. Surely, if he's going to make an impact and make a change, we'll be seeing that over the next 2 months.
Well, let's see.
But no one else is making their own changes, are they? So why would we expect any different?
Yeah. I mean, so let's just run through. Also, we've had the All Blacks 15 named since our last show. Props: Nimia, Dwyer, Ma'u, Retina, Bauer. No one sort of springs out to mind that's kind of missing from that crowd. Shout out if you think there is. Hookers: McAllister, Eklund, Slater. Now, this one, there is someone who screams out here because there was a whole bunch of people going, Ricky Riccatelli, he'll be in the All Blacks.
Yeah.
He doesn't even make the All Blacks 15. He's not even in the top 6. I would take top 7 because Samasoni Tokiaho is injured as well. So all this shouting about him being in the All Blacks, and he doesn't even make the All Blacks 15. Now, personally, I'm not overly surprised. I don't rate Ricky Riccatelli at the next level. But what do you think?
Yeah, it's rough, isn't it? I was just looking up how old he was. He's only 29 years old. And you look at who's he being beaten out by? I know Kurt Eklund has a very much, like we talk about with TJ, in that cultural sort of aspect to that team. But, geez, I don't know. It's rough. And I guess it shows you the direction. I think he can fairly say he's unlucky not to make that team. especially after I think he's been fairly consistent for a long time without being utterly phenomenal. But yeah, I would have thought he would have been in that squad. And to me, I don't think those guys stand out too much above him, but clearly they're seeing something in those guys that we're not.
And age-wise, Bauer at 32, Eklund at 32, again, a bit. They're clearly they've got to be in there as good experienced guys to help leadership, because otherwise, this is supposed to be a development squad, right? At 32, you're beyond development. Let's be honest.
No hope for us then.
Into the locks then, Lord, Holland. I thought Holland couldn't be picked until next year, but
no, they changed the laws.
No, because he's residency. Remember, so residency is still he's still 5. It's 5 years residency.
I thought they listened it.
Anyway, I guess that might apply for the All Blacks, but not for the All Blacks 15. Maybe they got away with it because it's not an official kind of national team. But anyway, I'm surprised to see him in there. Walker Laurie and Arcoy. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with those names there. I guess your players like Quinton Strange. I think you're going to start thinking about going overseas, because I think that let's be honest, I think he hasn't kind of progressed as people would have expected him to on that one.
Yeah, what's really good about it is their age. Although I am concerned that Isaiah Walker-Leary just has not progressed like he should. Remember him when he was like 23, 24, and he was storming through Super Rugby, and we're like, here's a guy that's going to be the next big thing. But
and he is a big
unfortunately, thing. He is a big thing, but he's not producing the big outcomes, which is disappointing. I really like him. I think he's good. But now, like you say, looking at him 27 and still kind of just floundering around that decent Super Rugby level player, if you're him, again, is it time to start looking overseas? I like the rest, though. I think Arcoy's had a good NPC, and Lord has been pretty solid as well, and it's good to see what Holland can do is step up to that next level as well. So I'm quite happy with the locks, because that's an area we really find some more depth in there.
Yeah, and Arcoy is someone that I really do rate. Look, he is. I think he's a kind of person who I don't think who might not fit in the All Blacks environment. He's a guy who paints his fingernails. And just is just a bit different, and that doesn't always go down well at the All Blacks level. We've seen having listened to some players kind of their the Waddle Lad kind of interviews. You're like, okay, that's why you didn't. Some players do not. So I hope he does fit in. I hope they do accommodate him, because I think he's a really good player, and we should be able to deal with people who've got slightly different personalities and that kind of stuff. So I quite like. I like these there. In the loose forwards, then Karifi, Lakai, Satutu, Haig, and Leo Willie. Looking at that, isn't there
the Hurricanes guy? Yossi.
Yes. That's what I was thinking as well. Yeah, immediately I was thinking Hurricanes number 8. Where's he? So a bit surprised yet he's not there. People keep harking on about Karifi. Look, good Super Rugby player, but to me, penalised too much. I'm not. So a bit surprised they're still persisting with him personally. And as you say, Yossi from the Hurricanes is one that immediately springs to mind. That's not there. Halfbacks, Noah Hotham and Finley Christie. I think we can no big surprises there.
Where's Fakatava? What's going on?
Well, yeah, Fakatava or Triple T. And two guys who
he's passed.
He's
it's done. Put a fork in him. He's done. No. How old is he now? Hang on. Let's find out.
I'm filling while you're typing. Shut up.
I can't spell his name.
He can't spell his name. Oh dear.
I found it.
So how old is he then?
29. No, he's done. No, he's done.
Oh, so yeah, okay. So he is actually quite right because Finney Christie's 29 as well, and he's actually got the experience of being there and done it. So yeah, you're quite right. I think he's. But so yeah, so no surprise, no Othams there on that one. Faxarf will have his revenge in Super. Says Nocturnal. We'll see. First 5/8, Harry Plummer. Look, after he was in the All Blacks, clearly he has to be in the squad for that one. Should he be? Not so sure, but hey. And Josh Jacob, with after 2 games at Super Rugby or something? Boy, yeah. So clearly, look, let's just hope that Brett Cameron doesn't happen to him. Okay, let's not try and throw him in one game and then never see him again on that one. Speaking of Triple T, it was his 50th game for Bay of Plenty this week. Wow, because he's bounced around to stay somewhere long enough to get 50 games. I'm a bit at NPC because NPC don't play that many games. That's like 5 seasons worth of games. So he's been there a while now.
He's played 41 games for Taranaki. This is the ever reliable wiki I've just quickly snapped onto here. Updated to 50 for Bay of Plenty, and he played for Waikato as well in there somewhere too.
Yeah.
So yeah, one game. So yeah, three provinces. It's not bad going. Not as much as I would have thought, but he's played for more Super Rugby teams than he's played for NPC provinces. He's played for the Hurricanes, the Chiefs, the Crusaders. Oh, and the Chiefs again. Okay, so I counted the Chiefs twice, but still, just as many. Crazy.
Wasn't his Waikato one to do with COVID
injury? Wasn't
and
it?
they ran out of players. And therefore, he got shipped in for one game because of COVID. They couldn't get anyone else because of COVID and bubbles and things, I think.
Yeah. There was something to do with that. I do remember, yeah.
Miller obviously is a bit unlucky. But look, I think he's got time on his hands. And one of the things we talked about earlier was about some players don't rush them through too quickly. And I got a feeling that might be happening to Josh Jacob here. What this also might be is that Clayton McMillan is the head coach for this group, and it's funny how there are a number of Crusaders and Chiefs boys in there. Sorry, Chiefs and Bay of Plenty boys in there. The places he's coached, so maybe there's also an element of him having players that he's had come through. Midfielders, Quinton Pyer, not surprised by that. That's good. Dallas McLeod, not surprised by that one, and he had a good game at the weekend actually. Riley Higgins and AJ Lamb in there. Braden Eno, I guess, could be a bit unlucky, but he's only just come back from injury, hasn't he? It's his first game back for Crusaders, but looked decent at the weekend. To be fair, so Higgins and AJ Lamb.
I'm surprised they considered AJ Lamb the bona fide midfield now, especially when you look at the outside backs, and there's a man in there that's played most of his NPC this season at 13 as well. So, yep. I like to see the young guys, so it'll be good to see more of Higgins. I don't rate Dallas McLeod at all, but here we go. Like you say, he's been that sort of fringe of All Blacks over the last 12 months, especially last year. So, yeah, let's see if we can continue on and see if build up some bit of form there. But, yeah, Tupai, look, I really hope Tupai gets back some of that form and ability of pre-injury, right? I think he's a quality guy, and I just hope, a little bit of continuity of rugby and consistently playing will help along. And, and another next year sort of thing could be a big step up for his game.
Yep, and then the outside backs, Keenan Naholo, who, let's be honest, has been there's been a lot of raps about him this year, and it's great to see here the Emanga twins should not be discounted in the future. Not someone right says, yeah, actually that's one of the ones that's is he injured still? Because wasn't he injured for the one playing out?
Yeah.
So whether he's back from injury or not. Emmanuel Norway, look, he was in the All Blacks last year, so no surprise he's there. Sean Stevenson, again, has been in and around the All Blacks, so again, not surprised he's there. And Che Fihaki for Canterbury in there.
All Black pressure.
Sorry?
All Black pressure.
All Black pressure.
Yeah. Well, they called him up for Zach Cover, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yes.
So now it's like you've got to include him in this team because we've made it clear that we think he might be nearly good enough to play for the All Blacks.
Yep. So yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, but anyone that has been called, you'd expect to see them in here. So yeah. So quite right. That he's in there. So Clay McMillan's head coaching this one with Corey Jane, Jamie McIntosh, and David Hill as his assistants. Corey Jane is slowly and quietly going about his coaching career, and we'll see. Yeah, he could be on for bigger things in the future. But look, he's going about earning his stripes and getting the experience. I think is a good thing as well with that one. David Hill, I say I got a lot of time. David Hill, we talked about him previously on the podcast as well.
Terrible 10, but still. And he played for Southland. Oh, I'm really, really shutting him down. Poor guy.
Oh. So look, it's a lot of names we expected to be there, I guess. But a couple of surprise ones in there as well. Both at the older end and the younger end on that for that matter.
I look at their team, right, and I see, like, you got to pick a guy like Stevenson, right, because he's what that kind of team is for, like those fringe sort of players. And I just see there's so many young guys that could benefit from a lot of experience and this sort of tour, like a Harry Godfrey, for example. I know they've not played much and they've only been around a little amount, but just guys like that, just instead of being like, hey, you've had 2 really good seasons, come play for the All Blacks. But the experience I'd get, like, why not? I know they don't want to name a massive squad, but just that experience of going in a team on a tour, and it's just a little bit different from what they experience here, and it's kind of a little bit more what they'd experience if they could make it to the next sort of level, if that makes sense. I just feel like it could be beneficial and not such a shock if their career gets more success later on. For those guys who are in their low 20s, and I know there's a few of them there, which is good, but and you'd feel really bad if for a Stevenson or a Finney Christie, because they are those next sort of guys, and it is all about keeping them fit if the All Blacks do need them. I understand that, but I just feel maybe you could take another 5 players or something and just go for those real guys that are like, hey, this guy's look really good this year. Let's just show them a little bit more about what the future could be.
Yeah, and as I'm not sure, I kind of wish I had more games. They've only got 2 games against Munster and Georgia.
Yeah.
A game against something like the French Barbarians would be really good. I'm not suggesting that they necessarily play your Spains and stuff, because they should be trying to get proper international games in under their belts against tier 1 teams. But there is. But I'm a bit surprised by the Georgia one. But yeah, it's another game against something like a French Barbarians. Would have been a good thing to have put in there. And yeah, get three games in, not just not twice. Yeah, the New Zealand 15 to display their wares to Northern club teams, so they can get nice contracts overseas.
And hopefully Finney Christie just gets left off the bus. That would be best case scenario. Leave Finney behind.
So you say, I'm guessing the French Warriors would not be allowed to play due to top 14, but they've played midweek games, or France A have played midweek games in November before. So I think I definitely could on that one. The one against Munster will be good. That'll generate a big crowd for certain. So cool. So that's cool. We'll see how many of them actually end up heading up to Japan. As well, because they reckon that 4 to 6 of those players might go to Japan, which might mess up kind of the preparation, because already they're traveling. Like the non-NPC finalists will go on the 26th of October, and the NPC finalists will go on the 27th. So already they're traveling in 2 groups, which isn't great when you're trying to sort of organize a tour. And things, and also at the moment, still not knowing who is going to be on that second flight doesn't help with planning either.
Who's going to be your 4 or 6 that go possibly to play? Who would you pick? I'm looking at it going, I feel like a lock will certainly be in that mix. I feel like a halfback or a scrum half will be in that mix as well, and possibly.
What have got 3 on tour? You don't need any more.
I know, but they're fragile. I'm feeling like maybe like a Tupai or a Stevenson or a Narawa might be, those sort of guys that they feel like are up to an All Black standard or have been to an All Black standard before, and the backs that they could just plug in there without having to worry about injuring someone who they consider key. Could certainly do a job, or even a McLeod. But I think the forwards are where the opportunities are, because not too many of those guys outside of a Satutu have had opportunity with the All Blacks, if I'm not mistaken.
I would suggest someone like, I think, Josh Lord, Peter Lakai, Chai Fihaki, basically the guys who have been in and around the squad. So again, Harry Plummer as well, maybe. But they might want to give Perifetta some game time there, so maybe not on that one. But I would think a Lord, Lakai, and Fihaki would be three of the ones I would expect to go, because they've already been around the fringes of the All Black squad as injury cover. So bring them in. They've already gone through all the training, etc. On that one. I don't know when the Wallabies are naming their squads yet. Nocturnal Rights. We'll see. We'll obviously talk about that when it happens. Talking of Australia, so thank you for that segue, Nocturnal Rights. It's all fun and games. Look, it's all been we've been talking too much about actual rugby and not enough about basically weird shenanigans. And so the Rebels decided that they would sue Australia Rugby for kicking them out. And as lawyers like to do, because hey, there's money for when suing people, Australia Rugby decided to countersue, which seems to be kind of the standard thing nowadays. So God knows what will happen there. At the end of the day, we're not going to see the Rebels coming back. Or as far as all it's going to be is just some tabloid headlines and maybe some money changing hands, I'd guess.
Just think of what the Rebels will throw out onto the paddock if they do get an opportunity. Imagine they win and they're forced to bring the Rebels back.
Oh my God.
Imagine the lineup that they'll put out in game one. They'll have like a month. It'll be like the Sunwolves and back in their first season, where it's like, who are all these guys? Oh, we found them on the side of the street. I don't know, can you catch a rugby ball? Not really. You're in.
At least for the Sunwolves, right? They had a whole bunch of foreign guys who are playing rugby in Japan already that they could go, hey, please. And they could actually get some of the guys in, right? Whereas in Australia, it's like, well, all our good players are already in teams. Shoot Field? Who else have you got? I don't want to go, but I don't want to go to Melbourne. I like Sydney. So, oh, shit. Okay.
James O'Connor, come back. Oh, shit.
So yes, it's no. It'd be an absolute disaster if they were forced to actually take them back again. To be honest with you, it'll just be about money.
Money.
The Nocturnal Rights says that the Rebels want an out-of-court settlement because if they win, Australian Rugby will be bankrupt. I don't think the Rebels really care whether Australian Rugby goes bankrupt or not, to be honest. At this point, they are personally bankrupt. They're like, hey, let's see who else we can take down with us. So yes. There also a 32% winning record in Super Rugby, average crowd of 8,000. Wow, that many? Interesting.
Doesn't look like much when you put it in a 60,000 seater stadium, though.
Well, yes, exactly. Well, yes, 40 of them, but yes. I mean, I've been in that stadium and for the Rebels versus the British and Irish Lions, and all the British and Irish Lions touring fans decided to go off and see Ayers Rock for the midweek and not bother turning up to the midweek game and all turn up just for the test match at the weekend. They went off and did other things, and the crowd was pitiful for that game. It was awful, but there we go. Then over Rocky Elson. Wow, there's a blast from the past. Had a fantastic season with Leinster, helping them to their first Heineken Cup, and then apparently went off to Narbonne, where he ended up being the CEO. And he's now been, apparently they couldn't get hold of him for all the courts things. So having not turned up, so this is something that happened like a decade ago. He apparently embezzled, or they allegedly embezzled $1 million from whilst he was there, and and he didn't turn up for any of the court hearings, but he's been found guilty and has been sentenced to 5 years in prison in France for this. Apparently, he paid. There was a 79,000 euro payment to a former coach, which apparently was unjustified, and then a monthly salary of 7,200 euros or 12,900 New Zealand dollars a month to an Australian resident who never came to Narbonne to be Narbonne's general manager. Apparently, in all of this, wow, Rocky Elson really got involved in some weird stuff by the sounds of things.
What a character! I mean, can we call him a character? I mean, I just sit there and read that. Well, listen to you say that, and I get to go. Imagine the players that Narbonne could have got with that $1 million or however much it was in the end that he took away from. They could have been a top shelf club. You know, they could have gotten some superstars.
I don't think it would have made amazing. That much difference.
Come on, $1 million. They could have got Willis Holo in there, or
that's Dan Carter for one season.
Imagine what Dan Carter would have done to Narbonne for one season. They could have got James O'Connor. You know, he's the most wanted player at the moment. Look, it's a bit weird, isn't it? And it's strange. It's weird, and it's kind of concerning in that they can easily do that. Like, how long's he been doing that for? Years. He's shipped away.
This was 10 years ago. It's taken 10 years for it to go through the court systems. Now he's in. Now he went off to Australia, ran a building company apparently, and then popped up in Ireland, coaching for a Catholic school. Which, I mean, obviously in Ireland, a Catholic school, unsurprising. I've had pretty much all the schools, to be honest. But the weird thing is, out of nowhere, he suddenly goes and gives a newspaper interview, like the week before this comes out that he's been he's been sentenced to 5 years in jail. And apparently he was a bit unsure about doing the interview. In case some old acquaintances discovered via the media that he was back in town, which is like, okay, what the hell did he normally get up to? So God knows what he used to get up to. Apparently, a lot of his old old teammates used to consider him enigmatic. Is the quote? Oh. It was the kind of the nice way of saying, "My God, he's weird." I think, and into dodgy stuff. Clearly, look, very good at what he did on the pitch, but clearly off the pitch seemed like a bit strange. Who knows what will happen now? He was down to do a pre-match Q&A ahead of the Leinster-Munster game, which Simon pointed out earlier was a sellout of 80,000 at Croke Park. Wow. For a club game. Pardon me, funny enough, he got pulled from that when he got sentenced. Everyone was like, shit, no, do not put him on a Q&A where people can ask him, why were you sentenced to 5 years? Are you actually going to go over there? Now, one of his really problems is that he's actually now in Ireland, which is part of the EU, which clearly has extradition laws to France. So unless he gets back to Australia quick, he is in the clanger. And as Oxford Wright says, the judge upped the sentence from what the prosecution wanted. Clearly, the judge was pissed off with him not turning up and not replying, and hence decided that he was going to up the sentence.
I just thought he might have been a Narbonne supporter. No?
Well, he might be as well, but even so. So, I mean, who knows what will happen from this, or whether we'll ever hear about Rocky Elson again. Oh, it'll be 10 years before we hear from him again, probably hear about him again. But wow. My life is just so boring.
He's going to come back and coach the Rebels when he gets out of jail. He's going to be part of the resurgence after Super Rugby decides to reverse getting rid of the Rebels and bring back the Sunwolves and everyone else, and then Rocky Elson will be the coach. There you go. Heard it here first. Come back to this video in 2029.
What's going to be absolutely... I mean, the icing on the cake, this will be like, he tried to run from Ireland and got a flight to Australia that transferred in Charles de Gaulle in Paris, and where he got arrested because he or something along those sort of lines would be that would just be perfect. So we'll see. We'll see what happens anyway.
Poor chap.
So I'm not going to say poor chap because hey, I don't know how much he's bought on that himself. So let's actually talk about some games, shall we? After that.
Oh yeah.
So we had 4 NPC quarterfinals at the weekend, which did not go the way that I expected. I'll be honest, because let's be honest, the home team has. He might be working on a P&O cruise ship. Brilliant nocturnal rights. That'd be great. Oh dear. So that's what when you at the quarterfinal stage, you're essentially expecting 4 home wins because they're the teams that have earned the right to be at home. So we opened up with Wellington versus Counties, where Counties pretty much dominated a lot of the game, only to find out that they just didn't know how to score points. And so whereas and Wellington basically, as they were just clinical in their finishing, and once they got into a 19-0 lead, let's be honest, you didn't really see Counties coming back from that because Counties just weren't clinical enough in this one.
It's I think it's going to be a bit of a common trend that we're probably going to talk about is just not scoring points when you have opportunities, isn't it? And teams becoming a bit more clinical. I'm probably going to say another thing as well is that a lot of players coming back seemed a bit disruptive to a lot of these teams over the last couple of weeks, and I think into these finals as well. So, yeah, I was hoping this could be the start of a really good weekend for the non-super franchise sides. I thought, we could have been off to a completely no big 5 involved in the semi-finals. Unfortunately, there wasn't to be. But, yeah, look, just Wellington were just clinical, right? The clinical took their chances, and when you get that scoreboard pressure on and it just don't have that experience, you don't have that capabilities to claw it back. But Counties gave it a good nudge, right? They gave it a good old-fashioned attempt. I think they made it to the quarterfinals. What more could you want? Good season for them, I reckon.
For Counties, that's absolutely. That's a good result for them. For Wellington, though, at that point you're thinking, geez, this is looking like the NPC winners here. They're sure they've had a couple of hiccups recently, but they're clicking in. Now, will they have TJ and Amua through to the final? Probably not, and that might be a problem. But at this point, looking good. Next up, Bay of Plenty versus Hawke's Bay, and Simon mentions the wind. Yes, okay. If you're in, so the ground in Tauranga is extremely exposed. I think is a nice way of putting it. I.e., there's only a stand on one side. All right. It's on top of a hill next to the sea, and that basically means you're going to end up with a wind. And we definitely saw that, and pretty much the one in the kind of second to last play of the game as they're kicking to the corner, and the ball just goes straight to the corner and then just stops and goes up in the air and comes down, and then and unfortunately we had an example, and we'll have another example of this where the players didn't know the rules of the game, because he jumped from outside of play and knocked the ball into play and landed outside and thought, hey, look, it didn't go out. No, if you start outside of play, you have to catch the ball and land in play. And he didn't do that. And so hence he gave up that 5 meter line out, which ended up losing his side of the game. So now David Havili, not knowing that you have to do a goal line dropout 5 meters, didn't lose his game to the team because his team had already lost the game. But again, someone like David Havili should know the laws of the game and shouldn't be making what is, let's be honest, is a schoolboy error at this level at the end of the day. So perhaps one of the club players, I kind of expect, I think that might happen. But for a Super Rugby All Black player, no, you should not be making that error there. So it was 7-12 at half time. This was always going to be a tight one. It was going to be come down to one score. That's I expected pre-game that Bay of Plenty would run away with this one. I thought they were winning this one with a little bit of comfort, because Hawke's Bay, since they've lost the Shield, have been very erratic. So I thought coming up to here, this would be where it would be at. But no, Hawke's Bay really did turn up, took the lead at half time, and were leading into that into the final minute. But that's that last line out drive was enough to see Bay of Plenty over the line. Nocturne right, so it's a bit strange that a city that size has a boutique ground. Look, calling it boutique is definitely not fair. Okay, it is it's a school playground ground. On that one, it is not a boutique ground by any stretch of the imagination. Look, yeah, as Simon says, Tauranga has a dysfunctional council. It definitely has had. The government had to step in and remove the council, and they really do not like doing that. Tauranga is no, it's not the fact that Tauranga grew so quickly they didn't plan for it. It's just they really had a dysfunctional council, as Simon put it. Not that we really want to get into politics too much on that one.
No, thanks not.
No,
look, that poor chap he was trying to catch that ball. Hang on.
Not after some of the Cargill's mares, hey, Steve.
As I said, I'm out talking political, so we just won't go there. That guy was looking at that ball coming over his head. Talk about mayors, jeez, and there was no chance. He was like, yeah, this is going to go sailing over my head, and he was standing there almost with his hands crossed, his arms crossed, and then the ball just about dropped on his head. That was the funniest thing I've ever seen. That just how the ball just stopped. It's almost like that. You see those funny clips on YouTube and stuff. With the kickoff, they end up going backwards into the own and goal, and that was the NPC as well. I think he kind of was like, crap, I can probably do something here. But that was a great game. I really like this game because it should have been probably like 45-43 or something like that, because both sides were just attacking with absolute disregard for any sort of normal structure or anything like that. They were just, it was running, it was fun, it was high paced, it was exciting, and it was risky. Ultimately, there's a lot of errors, a lot of poor passes, but I found it quite fun. Just how explosive the players were in making the amount of line breaks. It was a good game. And if you watch that game without knowing the score, you'd think it was a lot more high scoring game, just the way that the teams were attacking. So I thought it was a really fun game to watch. Yeah, the ending is a bit of a shame for poor old Hawke's Bay. I thought they played really, really well and did well to fight back and get that lead and to hold that lead for all that time. I thought the yellow card would have hurt them when it happened. I thought that really was it. I thought at that point I was like, yeah, they're done now. It's just gonna blow over the other way. They did really well to hold out, and a really exciting finish in the end. I think a really exciting match. I think that was my favorite match of the weekend, even though there was some crackers and the last one wasn't, but the next game was quite exciting as well. But this for me was great.
Look, Simon is a Bay of Plenty supporter, so yes, he has no sympathy for the fake Bay. Quite right. I know where he's coming from. But look, it does just show that when you get the wind like that, it can really change the game, because it just takes kicking out of it. If you're kicking with the wind behind you, the ball goes dead, right? you can hardly. It's very difficult to control how far you kick. So again, when you even when you got the wind at your back, you're trying to run with it because you don't want to be losing the ball. And again, it's if you can't kick into the wind, so there's a lot. It means you get a lot more ball play with ball. Well, let's do a very quick aside for a question before we go back to the match reviews. Robbie asks us on Facebook, your thoughts on rumours Nathan Cleary could be a Wallaby one day. Absolute bullshit. Sorry, but there's no way Nathan Cleary is ever going to leave NRL. Look, I'm not saying he's not good enough. Probably would be. But at the end of the day, there is no chance that he would leave NRL and become. I just can't see it ever happening. Why would he? He's a legend over there. he'd have to. I mean, look what happens, Benji Marshall, and those sort of kind of when you look at a skill player, it doesn't transfer so well. If you're looking at a centre or a winger, that works. But so when you're looking at a skill player, there's too much difference between the codes, in my opinion.
I feel like he should. You know why? Because then someone else might have a chance to win the NRL. Okay, doing it 4 times in a row. It's just not fair. Okay, it's not fair and it's not right. So let someone else have a chance. All right, it's crazy. Yeah, I agree with you though. It's very difficult for such an instrumental pivot sort of player or position that he would likely want to undertake or would be given to step in after playing a different code for so long. So, hey, I'd welcome it. I like to see these cross codes get all the money and then fail, especially when it's in Australia, like all the other times that they've done it. Although there's been a couple that are all right. But what's going to make it will be money. I mean, I don't know where they're going to get it from, but if it would happen, they'd have to give him an absolute boat ton of, like, they'd have to literally, I don't know how they're going to sue the Rebels because Rebels don't have any money, but if they make $1 billion out of destroying the Rebels somehow, then maybe that's where they'll spend that money. No, can't see it happening.
So next up we had Taranaki versus Waikato. I'll be honest, I really did not see this one coming. Waikato came out of the blocks and the Naki absolutely didn't. And it was 0-12 at half time. And actually went out to 15-0 before Naki even got on the board on 51 minutes with a drop goal. Absolute quality. We love an occasional. So this is one of the things we were threatened with when the goal line dropout came out, was that we would get lots of drop goals. And we saw a couple of them happen in South Africa at altitude. But we haven't really seen them happen that often. But yeah, we got one in this game, which was cool. Not sure I see Taranaki with junk. Still hungover from last week. Yeah. Look, winning the Shield is cool. They've had the Shield recently. I was over there when they had it. And to my mind, it's letting the Shield stop you from when you got finals footy around the next week. You shouldn't be out on the beers. Sorry. But yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. And it wasn't until 53 minutes when they actually got over. And look, when you're 15-0 down, that's it would have been a hell of a comeback. To be fair, they got close, and it was a 1-point game at the end. And they had when their last try was on 61 minutes. They had nearly a quarter of the game to close this one out. The fact they got that close, Waikato, look yourselves in the mirror, because you ain't getting past the next round. Let's be honest. Plan your Mad Monday for next Monday, because it ain't. If you're allowing a 15-point lead to slip in this kind of game, you are not getting past the semi-finals. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's well done to get back that far. So yeah, Waikato traveling down to Wellington. If you can't hold on to a 15-point lead, sorry. But yeah, you're in for some real trouble next weekend.
I like this game as well. caught me a little bit sadistic, but the last game, Bay of Plenty and Hawke's Bay, I enjoyed it because it was so fun and explosive, and it was so open, right? Like I said, you couldn't kick, so you're forced to run and play the ball. This game was more of a mental drama of a team that's just got absolutely smoked in that first half. Like Waikato, just really, there's only one team in that game. Taranaki weren't even at the party. They weren't even at the park. There were just some empty shells of rugby players' bodies out there, just kind of going through some kind of motions at times. But that second half, it's like the passion could have sort of come back. And after that first try, when you're within, I know 8 is a dumb number, and it's always a terrible number to be chasing. But that they played with a bit more belief that they were actually going to get back into the game. And you're right, they scored that try. They still had near on 20 minutes to go. And it felt like they were going to get it done because they had the momentum. They looked a lot better. They had Waikato on the ropes pretty much. And the time just ticked, and they just couldn't score. And they couldn't score. Then Waikato would get, a lucky penalty, a turnover. They'll kick their way back. And Taranaki would slowly but surely work back into a good position. And it's like I said at the start, it's an ability to turn those opportunities into points. I feel like they were the better team. Like that second half, they were streaks ahead. And you're right, I kind of need to look in the mirror as well, because only leading that, well, was it 12-0 at halftime? They should have led by so much more than 12-0. And when that drop goal went over, you kind of just like, that's kind of weird, but whatever. It wasn't really a position where you're like, oh, that's a really good scoring play. That you're out by 12. But in hindsight, it was effectively another try, because it took them from 2 tries going behind to 2 tries still having the lead. So, yeah, incredibly smart play there at the time. Looked like a bit of a, okay, he's just done a, Matt Dunning weird drop goal out of nowhere for no reason, just because he can, to ultimately the match-winning play of the game. But, yeah, Taranaki, if you just could have done something in that first half, or taken a little bit more out of that second half, because they were really fired up in that second 40. You could see that their momentum was really carrying them on, and they were certainly on top of that game. But I think that was a really good drama sort of game of rugby. That wasn't all about the high flying and excitement sort of thing, but it was a bit of a mental grind for those players, and it was exciting to watch. I reckon very different to the other exciting game, and to me, I watched it a lot differently in kind of anticipation of something to explode, and it was like a ticking time bomb that never really went off.
We're coming back. It's a great comeback story. Oh no, it's not. Quick, retype all our match reports.
Yeah, it was very much like that. Yeah.
Rapanuti Neepkins, unfortunately, wasn't playing this game because of the breaking of vertebra, which clearly, look, another player, please get well, but don't get well soon. Get well properly before you come back on the pitch, because that's pretty serious. Sort of fracturing vertebrae. Let's be honest. Final game of the round then was a bit of a damn squib in response to these other ways. We say tight games. One side dominating but still losing. You can say, okay, look, they're going to click eventually. They're going to come back, and then we get some Tasman, Canterbury, who have not been great this season. Tasman, who have been were kind of threatening to even top the table, and then lost the shield last weekend against pretty much their nemesis in Taranaki, and they clearly haven't recovered from that. As they got absolutely thumped by Canterbury. They were 26-0 down after 32 minutes. Now they did get one try in the first half, but I mean, look, 7:33 at half time, the game was well and truly over. I mean, when you consider that Canterbury had scored more points in the first half than any other team managed in the entire game all weekend, it showed you that this game was over at this point. With this one, Tasman awful. Canterbury didn't play fair. Just kept the ball. yeah, it's our ball. You're not going to have it. You can't play. Kind of child game. And then what you often see with this kind of game is that the team that's leading comfortably then takes their foot off the gas. There was that game where a certain team was looking at getting over 80, even 100 points at one point, wasn't there? And they got nowhere near it in the end. Whereas Canterbury did not take their foot off the gas in this one. They scored again straight after half time. And then in the last 20 minutes, still scored 2 tries and a penalty. Canterbury really were not taking their foot off the throat at all. So, Tasman were never allowed into this one. I'd say we also had David Havili not knowing the laws of the game, which was a little comical joke in this. But at the end of the day, a look at 14:62, somebody not kicking a drop out 5 meters wasn't what was wrong with this team.
Oh, this was a disappointment of the weekend, wasn't it? I had high hopes that this was going to be an exciting, what do you call it, positional rivalry between the two Crusaders catchment franchises or teams or provinces. Boy, no, just no. Bad game. Tasman to me they clocked off. After they lost that Shield. This is what I meant at the start where I said I feel like players coming back into these NPC environments has affected them not in a good way. I don't want to say a negative way, but I don't think it's improved them. I think it's kind of brought in players who have wanted to be the guy, be the hero, and come in and be like, I'm an All Black. I'm going to take our team to the finals. But yeah, I just don't feel like it helped Tasman. I feel like they just completely dropped off when they got these superstar All Blacks back in their team, and they just haven't looked the same. But yeah, losing that Shield was that was the end of their season. This game was just dead rubber. It's as sad as it is. It just got demolished, destroyed by a team that, like I say, hasn't looked superb like the groundbreakers. And you'd even say, based on it, they should have they retained the Shield, they would have topped the table, right? They would have been the number one team, and gone by 50 points almost. Something went horribly wrong there with Tasman, and it's a shame because they've had a great season, and it's almost like being North Harbour and getting wiped out by Southland the last game of the regular season. It doesn't leave a good taste in the mouth, does it? Sorry, Harbour.
Where the hell did that come from? Hologram 2-pack says, post-Shield depression has been brutal this year. Yes, it has.
Yeah, every team that's lost it has gone absolutely diabolical. Hawke's Bay kind of just started maybe recover, but geez, that's at a stretch. But yeah, Tasman, no, not good. Hawke's Bay, no, not good either. So it's a bit of a shame, but it shows, hey, in a way, it's kind of good because we want the Shield to be important. We want the Shield to be a good focal point because it just brings a little bit of excitement around a normal regular season game. There's always that chance to take that bit of the highly coveted Shield away from other teams. So yeah, it's cool. It's a shame. It kind of killed what I thought was going to be a really exciting Sunday afternoon game.
I think more people will be aware that Tasman got the Shield for the first time ever this season than whoever wins the NPC.
For right? Sure, definitely.
It's the NPC is an excuse to have games to play the Round 30 Shield, right at the end of the day.
Sure.
From a publicity point of view and from the general public's point of view, on this one. So our quarterfinals then, both of them on Saturday at 4:10, and we have Bay of Plenty versus Canterbury. Now it has to be then because again, as we've said before, because of politics, Bay of Plenty don't have any floodlights at their stadium, just like Stephen's floodlights have gone off as well. Steve's cornflakes lights have gone off. Oh look, he's gone bright again.
I'm just looking at the fixtures. Yeah,
that's right. Dark. So Bay of Plenty hosts Canterbury. Now look, after Canterbury's performance this last weekend, that could go either way. Let's be honest. Previous to that, I would have gone Bay of Plenty into the finals, but hey, Canterbury, definitely in with a shout on that one. And the TAB agrees it's $1.72 for Bay of Plenty and $1.97 for Canterbury. Wellington versus Waikato, which will be played in an empty stadium that does have floodlights with lots of yellow seats. However, is not anywhere near as close. $1.33 for Wellington and $3.10 for Waikato. I will not be putting any money on Waikato on that one. To be honest with you, so Wellington going in as heavy favourites to host the final. Let's be honest. The other one though, I think is going to be should be a close game and could go either way on that one. Hologram Tobacco says, I can't tell you who won any particular NPC over the last 10 years, but I can still remember the Southland Shield run. That's for damn sure on that one. And someone points out the only other option for Bay of Plenty would have been Rotorua for a night game. Look, lovely as Rotorua is as a place, that stadium is bloody cold. On that one. So Knox Rice is going for a Wellington Bay of Plenty final. Look, I hope so, purely because, as we said earlier, we'd like to see the teams that are not Super Rugby hosting provinces get there. And 3 out of the 4 The three Super Rugby hosting provinces all got out of the quarterfinals. Right, Auckland and Otago didn't make the quarterfinals, so they couldn't get any further. But the other three all have done. So let's just hope so. There, Bay of Plenty Rugby don't want to host finals because they're annoyed when people didn't attend the second division final in Rotorua. That's true. Look, Bay of Plenty definitely get better crowds in Tauranga than they do Rotorua. That's for sure. Holograph 2. Wellington look the goods to me, but are all their All Blacks going to be gone by finals time? I would guess they will be, to be honest. Because, well, if the All Blacks 15 are flying away before the final, then so the final is on the 26th of October. And when are they playing Japan? They are playing Japan on the 26th of October. So, yes, there should be no All Blacks available for the final. They may be available for the semi-final. I don't know.
Nah. Get them out. Get them out.
I know you say that. I understand where you're coming from, and I kind of agree with you on that one. And I don't mind All Blacks going back and playing regular season games. It feels a bit wrong them coming back and playing finals games, though. They're not. That's not the team that got them there. So, for my mind, playing finals is a bit wrong. But regular season, happy for it to happen. Absolutely.
Were you all jumping on the Bay of Plenty bandwagon? I'm certainly on the Bay of Plenty bandwagon, Simon. Jump on. Make some room on the bus. I'm coming aboard. Stuff these big unions. Down with the big unions. Let's go Bay of Plenty.
So does Bay of Plenty have any... I did run through who were the All Blacks that were released. And Bay of Plenty did have one from memory. It was, Pasiolo Tossi. Whereas Canterbury had George Bell, Fletcher Newell, and Sam Darry, released. So there you go. Wellington with Billy Proctor, Ruben Love, TJ Pirinoa, and Asafoa Amua. So a lot of Wellington players disappearing, there for that one. And the reviewer lets us know that the Bay of Plenty have not won the NPC since 1976. Wow.
Records going to be broken.
I was alive when it happened, but I can't remember it. I'll be honest. You weren't alive then, I know.
Didn't exist.
You weren't even a twinkle in your mum and dad's eye.
Whoa! Sam Kane is part of Bay of Plenty.
Yes,
he will not be available for the finals.
He wasn't available for this round either. There's no. So Sam Kane. Look, he has played for Bay of Plenty. Don't get me wrong, but remember when he came back from injury, he played for King's Country a couple of years ago.
Traitor.
Not even Bay of Plenty. So King Country is where he kind of is. If you go right back to where he's from, but yes, no, he has played for Bay of Plenty, but not for a number of years. Let's be honest with that one.
He's listed in their team. So it's Caleb Trask. There's a name that for the future.
Caleb, really?
Why not? Anyone who wears number 10 jumpers with a shot. Anyone. Hey, just what? So speaking of that though, the All Blacks 15 players. You said earlier that if they're in the final, they will be leaving after the final, right? So they will be available. So say Bay of Plenty do make the final, like your Kurt Eklunds and guys like that are in that All Blacks 15. Will be available for that final?
Yes, they fly out on the 27th of October, so the day after the final.
Good. So good, because those are the guys that are part of the team.
Yeah, exactly. But also that does mean when I mentioned earlier that I think that Lakai, Josh Lord. Well, Josh Lord now can obviously go and play in Japan because he's for Taranaki. But Lakai of Wellington, for example, who I thought would be going, and Fihaki of Canterbury, those kind of players maybe don't go to Japan because they might be involved in the final as well. So I think that brings us to a close. Thank you very much. Great to chat with you again, Cornflake.
Semi-finals rugby. Go Bear Plenty. That's my last thing. I'm jumping on the Bear Plenty bandwagon. All right. So next week, boy, get all the Bear Plenty boys in the chat. We're gonna have a party. We're gonna have a finals party. They better win. God, they better win.
So you're. I expect to see you all next week dressed up as Hori. I
got blue and yellow. What more do you want from me?
Oh, okay.
I'm halfway there already.
So
I'll flag it over a little bit.
I was going to quickly share a quick photo. This guy turns up to all of the Bay of Plenty games and gives out sweets. So for those of you on the podcast, it's a guy who's got basically he wears a big wig with sticky out white hair. His half his face is painted yellow, half his face is painted red. He's got a big white beard, and he's got well, actually, he's got a Volcanics. He's got a women's rugby jersey on, not the men's team there, to as well to hand out, and he gives out sweets to all the kids at the game. So all good fun and games. And as Simon says, yes, he keeps running for mayor of Tauranga as well. And that's actually the article I got the photo from, is him running for mayor. So yes, that was a good point, Rose. Good point, Simon. He's got both badges on his shirt. That's true. He has.
You only need to be concerned, hologram, as if he's got a white van as well. That's when the questions will get asked.
Very true. Very true. Okay, folks. Stay safe this weekend. This week. Geez. And we'll chat after next weekend and the semi-finals. Stay safe.